With the support of the big shots in the black market, this man produced 30,000 spirit pills in one go. He became a deity in one battle at the resource contribution meeting. The sect master and all the elders in the cultivation sect spared no praise for Verdant Miss Peak. They praised it with all kinds of kind words. In addition, because of winning the bet with Sky Valley, Blue Autumn Yun can freely choose 3 items. The 3 items that Blue Autumn Yun chose are the Dan Pill's prescription, the spiritual artifact carried by Sky Valley, and the wig spiritual artifact that can freely change hairstyles on his head. After the resources are paid, the demon execution order is also issued. The atmosphere in the cultivation sect gradually starts to become lively. Disciples are emerging from seclusion one after another, brimming with enthusiasm and vigor. After all, the disciples who have achieved outstanding results in the demon execution order have the opportunity to enter various outstanding rankings in the blue vast domain. If they are lucky, they will be valued and supported by other cultivation sects and aristocratic families. Furthermore, the demon execution order is only limited to disciples under the age of 25 who are geographically adjacent. It is jointly released by the 3 closely related major domains. It provides wanted information to the various cultivation sects within the domain about evil cultivators and those extremely wicked individuals. The deadline is 1 month. In the end, a rating will be given based on the difficulty of completing the demon execution task. The difficulty levels of the demon execution order are divided into 5 categories: A, B, C, D, and E, each offering different ratings. Disciples who can complete level B are already quite outstanding. They are usually closely watched by major rankings, and have a very high chance of appearing on the lists later on. As for the level A difficulty, that goes without saying. In previous years, only outstanding disciples from domain-level major forces have had the possibility of completing it. Blue Autumn Yun, as a graduated Immortal Venerable, felt it was inappropriate to snatch opportunities from children. So, he originally just intended to go and have some fun. But he inadvertently discovered that one of them was a level A evil cultivator carrying a precious treasure. And that treasure happened to be a spiritual elixir that could enhance one's physique, which made him feel compelled to join in the fun as well. At this moment, Elegant Ling had a map obtained from the cultivation sect. It marked the possible locations of the evil cultivators and demon beasts listed in the demon execution order. Blue Autumn Yun quickly considered it, and soon designated the Muyang City area. The area here is extremely vast. It is heard that the spiritual energy here has suddenly become abundant. Nearby areas have seen rapid growth of spirit herbs, and among many spirit herbs, there is the eternal 7-leaf bloom that can increase cultivation level. Many evil cultivators will be attracted without us having to make much effort to search. In addition, Muyang City is the place where a certain prestigious family in the blue vast domain started their business. The commercial activities there are prosperous, and that family values their hometown a lot. Someone is specially appointed to take care of the city, making it very safe. The girls glanced at each other. Although it's far away, it seems very suitable as Blue Autumn Yun mentioned. So, they agreed to go to Muyang City. Muyang City is divided into the inner city and the outer city. The inner city, which used to be a dwelling place, is protected by the noble family. Naturally, no one dares to provoke trouble in the inner city. And the outer city is different. It has a vast area. People coming and going are mixed up, making it quite chaotic. As the sky darkens, shadow-like shadows linger every few kilometers before quickly dissipating, leaving invisible space fluctuations in the air that are imperceptible. In just a few moments, Blue Autumn Yun dashed from the inn in the inner city of Muyang City to a mountain peak several tens of miles outside the city. Of course, there is another reason for coming to Muyang City. That is because Priscilla Lee mentioned it in a letter. He has been active around Muyang City recently. The black market forces here make it very convenient to gather information about evil cultivators. Next, Blue Autumn Yun needs to catch some unlucky guys to make up the numbers. So, he took advantage of the girls being tired and asleep. He sent a letter to meet Priscilla Lee at night. After a while, the the silhouettes of a few figures appeared in the darkness of the night. The leader was a sturdy man. It's the former underground boss of Liling City, Priscilla Lee. Priscilla Lee greeted him and exchanged a few words. Soon, she handed him a scroll, informing him that the spiritual energy had suddenly become vigorous recently. There were rumors of the birth of the 4th-rank spirit herb, Eternal Seven-Leaf Bloom. Blue Autumn Yun nodded in appreciation. This guy sure knows how to get things done. He collected important information for him as soon as they met. This person can be a little useful after all. Blue Autumn Yun took out a crumpled paper and threw it over. Priscilla Lee quickly bit over to catch it. Inside were 3 3rd-rank top-quality Dan pills. He was immediately shocked and was about to thank. But when he saw Blue Autumn Yun clearly, he couldn't help but be stunned. Blue Autumn Yun at this moment had turned into a head of floating white long hair. Draped over the shoulders was a layer of white light condensed from moonlight. This was a spiritual artifact obtained from Second Elder that Blue Autumn Yun was somewhat interested in. So she deliberately made herself look more pretentious. Priscilla Lee looked confused. How does Blue Autumn Yun's casually flipping her hair look? Priscilla Lee pondered for a moment, shook her head, and said, "Too basic and too mainstream." Between Priscilla Lee's sighs, Blue Autumn Yun walked over and pried open his hand. She took back one of the 3 Dan pills. The paper ball had your task written on it. Take a good look. I'm leaving now with no other matters to attend to. Priscilla Lee tearfully glanced at Blue Autumn Yun taking back the Dan pills and shouted at her back, "Master, there's one more thing." At the same time, a tall and curvaceous woman wearing a mask emerged from the darkness. She bowed to Blue Autumn Yun. Priscilla Lee said nonchalantly, "Preparing the Dan pills was mostly thanks to this Immortal Maiden who you recommended." After that, Priscilla Lee nodded to the woman and then left with her companions. The towering mountain peak was now only home to Blue Autumn Yun and the woman. As the woman walked out, her figure became clearer in the moonlight. The Taoist robe was quite short, revealing bare legs and bare feet. In the moonlight, a pair of delicate and fair legs appeared even whiter. Like a young girl, red strings with bells were tied around her ankles, making clear tinkling sounds with each step she took. The upper half of her face was a white fox mask. Her eyes were lively, and the girl's skin was as fair as snow. Her cherry lips shimmered with an enticing luster. Even the partially revealed lower half of her face was enough to evoke thoughts of her exceptional beauty. The woman gazed at Blue Autumn Yun and smiled affectionately. "Alchemist, sir," Renheim's voice was clear and sweet, albeit tinged with a fox-like lingering breathiness, making it easy for people to have fanciful thoughts. Blue Autumn Yun narrowed his eyes. This woman has a deep cultivation level. She is at least at the Golden Core stage and can be considered a strong individual in the Mu province capital. "What do you need from me?" Renheim walked over with a smile. Then he knelt and sat in front of Blue Autumn Yun. It seems that he is not intimidated by his status as a 5-rank alchemist. Renheim is highly skilled and willing to share the worries for the adult. Blue Autumn Yun looked into Renheim's watery and affectionate eyes. He curiously asked to hear about the special skills. Renheim smiled faintly, raised her sleeve slightly, extended her lotus-like white and tender arm, clenched her small pink fist, and then gently opened it. Her skills and hand techniques were excellent. Renheim extended her pink tongue and licked her lips lightly. Her lips, moistened with water, became even more alluring. She excelled in oral techniques, and her mouth held infinite mysteries. Renheim straightened her body, bent her legs together, forming a seductively enticing body contour. Like a demon snake yearning for entwining and mating. This young lady had complete mastery over her body, captivating adults, and making them unable to extricate themselves. Blue Autumn Yun quickly fanned herself to remind herself to stay calm. Renheim stared straight at herself with eyes full of affection, and kept hinting with various body movements. His voice was quite flirtatious, and he was really unable to resist it. Blue Autumn Yun quickly waved his hand. "I already have a wife, and not just one immortal maiden. Please be respectful." Rinheim looked at Blue Autumn Yun with a grievance and pouted. Her chest was straight and revealed snow-white skin with valleys. Sir, are you having the wrong thoughts? The young lady is skilled in gathering herbs and knows how to preserve their effectiveness. This is her expertise. Her tongue is quite agile and can taste the hidden flavors of the herbs. The more advanced the herb, the less likely she is to make a mistake. This unique skill is rare in the world. It might just be able to help you. In addition, I have the ability of the golden core. Although it may not be sufficient, I can also work for you as a support. I am sensitive to my body and can help you test the Dan pills. My appearance is also decent. Walking by your side can also be pleasing to the eye. Rinheim smiled and stood up. Of course, there may be other benefits. You can explore them gradually later on. Blue Autumn Yun supported her forehead. The wheel even pressed against her face, yet she still dares to say I have a dirty mind. This woman is really interesting. In the face of the deliberate seduction of a charming woman, Blue Autumn Yun showed a look of honesty. Are you here to tease me? Just say what you have to say. In the gaze of Blue Autumn Yun, Rinheim slightly moved her body, sitting limp beside the legs. Her fingers gently moved up from Blue Autumn Yun's shin. Then, she propped her face against her elbow on Blue Autumn Yun's knee. Her eyes blinked as she stared at Blue Autumn. The adult is wise, and this young lady does have a request for the adult's help. The adult is a 5th-rank alchemist, naturally possessing formidable skills in potion refining. The young lady would like to implore the adult for help in refining Dan pills. Rinheim's lips curled slightly as she lightly licked her fingers. Her voice became alluring and enchanting. If successful, I am willing to let the adult witness the charm of this young lady. Rinheim looked around and said softly, with the bright moon and stars shining, and the gentle breeze blowing, if the adult is interested, you can inspect the goods here. As she spoke, Rinheim had already half leaned onto Blue Autumn Yun's body. Her clothes slid down, revealing her snow-white shoulders and collarbones. The red belly band straps had already fallen off her shoulders. Her eyes were affectionate and shy, biting her lips with an eager look. Blue Autumn Yun decisively uses spiritual energy to bounce off Rinheim without hesitation. Rinheim is half buried on the ground with her skirt flipped open. The 2 flower-white thighs are exposed within sight, revealing a hint of spring. She looked at Blue Autumn Yun with a face full of sadness. So what if it's Blue Autumn Yun? A young lady like me doesn't need any titles. I can play any tricks they can. Why not give it a try? Also, I have a special spirit technique that can hide my body. Even if I do it in front of them, they won't notice. Isn't that very exciting? Blue Autumn Yun was speechless and directly covered her forehead. I just need the normal alchemist reward. Stop playing those tricks. Those illusions are useless to me. As he spoke, he silently pulled and adjusted his clothes to cover a certain area. Upon hearing this, Rinheim smiled faintly and stood up gently. The charming light in her eyes slowly disappeared. There was a hint of caution and appreciation on her face. The seductive trick, which never failed, unexpectedly had no effect on him. Obviously, this alchemist was much stronger than she had imagined. Rinheim smiled faintly and said, I understand the rules. I will provide the medicinal herbs and prescriptions, and you will handle the refinement, sir. As for the payment, I have many Dan pills prescriptions and medicinal herbs on my side. The quality is quite good and should meet your standards. There are also many cultivation methods and spirit techniques. Of course, 4th-rank Dan pills require a lot of effort, which these adults may not be satisfied with. However, I have a way to obtain several mutant 4th-rank medicinal herbs for the adults. In the end, I am willing to do one more thing for the adults. What do these adults think? Blue Autumn Yun glanced at Rinheim mutant medicinal herbs, whose rarity is no less than that of the spiritual fruit. The locations where they are buried are extremely secretive, mostly guarded by spiritual beasts. The spiritual beast guarding the 4th-rank mutant medicinal herbs is at least at the 4th rank, with strength equivalent to the Golden Core to Nascent Soul stage. At most, she is only at the Golden Core cultivation level. Blue Autumn Yun doesn't think that Rinheim is talking nonsense. Only someone who is stupid to a certain extent would offend a 5-rank alchemist. In addition, Blue Autumn Yun thinks that the woman's use of charm just now was a test. If one's performance was not good-looking enough, one might be ridiculed by her, and there might not be any subsequent high rewards. Blue Autumn Yun nodded in agreement. He just happened to need those medicinal herbs and Dan pills. Moreover, if he encounters trouble in Muyang City in the future, he can ask this woman for help. Rinheim smiled slightly, very confident in the reward she proposed to herself. As she spoke, she raised her hand, and a ring gently flicked out. Blue Autumn Yun caught it, and took out the prescription from inside. Luminous Spirit 7-flower Dan pill consists of a primary 4th rank or higher spirit herb. Each spirit herb is then supplemented with 7 types of medicinal materials. Approximately 7 Dan pills are refined before figuring out a way to merge them into one Dan pill. The difficulty of this prescription exceeds that of ordinary 4th rank Dan pills, with most spirit herbs exhibiting mutual exclusion in attributes, making it extremely challenging. Of course, the effects are also extremely terrifying, with several effects. Blue Autumn closed her eyes and simulated the steps of potion refining once. Blue Autumn Yun took out the alchemy cauldron and ignited the spiritual energy. She suspended many spirit herbs in midair, using spiritual energy to begin the refinement process. Rinheim furrowed her brow. She had originally planned to take the opportunity, while Blue Autumn Yun was pondering, to go and search for a few spare medicinal herbs. But she did not expect him to immediately start refining. Flames rose, enveloping the medicinal herbs. Those herbs ignited instantly under the high temperature. Blue Autumn Yun released spiritual energy. Pure medicinal liquid surrounded the body like water droplets. Spiritual energy enveloped the liquid for nurturing. In front of Rinheim, there is no need to suppress strength too much. Directly use various profound techniques that have been comprehended. When the spiritual liquid was almost nurtured, a white mist was released to freeze it. Blue Autumn Yun placed the 7 main medicinal herbs into the alchemy cauldron and directly used a fierce flame to devour them. Various fragrances of medicinal herbs diffused under his gaze. One by one, the main medicinal herbs slowly melted. Rinheim's chest heaved with cold sweat. Whenever those delicate medicinal herbs were about to dissipate in the fierce flames, they miraculously made it through, incredibly thrilling. Blue Autumn Yun spent nearly a night refining Dan pills. Rinheim also stared blankly for a whole night. As the night passed, the darkness did not fade away but grew heavier with approaching dark clouds. The restless roars of spiritual beasts could be heard around. The 5th rank Dan pills were already causing some abnormal signs. In Rinheim's incredulous gaze, the glowing Dan pills condensed into shape. Blue Autumn Yun sniffed lightly, with a hint of dissatisfaction. It had not reached the level of perfection, only high-quality quality. Rinheim on the side, however, looked dumbfounded. It was refined just by taking a glance at the prescription. Even using these medicinal materials to refine 2 Dan pills, I'm afraid that even a renowned master in blue vast domain potion refining may not necessarily have such ability. Who exactly is this person? While Rinheim was in a daze, Blue Autumn Yun put the 2 Dan pills into a jade bottle and threw it over. Rinheim immediately caught it in a fluster, looking at the jade bottle with joy on her face. Then she knelt down and bowed, saying, "Thank you, sir. I will prepare your reward right away." Blue Autumn Yun waved her hand and nodded, still smelling the fragrance of Dan pills lingering in the air. She was afraid that someone would arrive soon. To avoid unnecessary trouble, let's leave quickly. After he returned to the inn, it was already getting light outside. Blue Autumn Yun closed his eyes briefly to rest for a moment. Then he went downstairs to meet up with the girls. At this time, they were having breakfast. This inn not only offers accommodation, but also food. There is a bulletin board in the hall. It is covered with a lot of gathered evil cultivator information. Guests can freely view and receive it as a gimmick to attract many cultivators. Many cultivators are also discussing recent rumors. It is said that last night at the top of Baiha Peak outside the city, there was a lingering fragrance of Dan pills that remained for a long time. At least it is of the 4th rank or higher. I have also heard. I wonder which distinguished alchemist is refining potions here. I didn't expect to find such a powerful alchemist in Muyang City. It is likely that they are here to search for spirit herbs. After hearing the news about the mysterious alchemist, Aurelia Luo and Ariel Mu exchanged glances and listened carefully. It doesn't hurt to gather some more information. Ariel Mu kept staring at Blue Autumn Yun, blinking her eyes as if asking, "Is it you?" Blue Autumn Yun intentionally pretended not to see. Little senior sister's sensing ability has been quite accurate recently. With the release of the Demon Execution Order, all disciples within the Cultivation sect are required to undergo a 1-month demon execution training as requested. At this time, Blue Autumn Yun and others have already arrived in Muyang City. While they are eating, a domineering female cultivator slowly walked down the steps in front of a crowd of cultivator clans. She was accompanied by an old man emitting a strong oppressive aura. Many cultivators, who looked over, quickly averted their gazes. They followed the anxious innkeeper's lead and headed to the VIP lounge. After a while, a proud-looking youth also arrived amidst a crowd. He disdainfully glanced at the crowd and went straight to the upper room. Aurelia Luo looked quite solemn. Do those 2 individuals also come from a major sect above the domain to carry out the demon execution order here? Regardless, it's better for us to stay away from them and have as little contact as possible. Just at this moment, Ariel Mu was walking back with a tray from the food pickup area. Coincidentally, she collided with a cultivator who was hurrying away. Unable to steady herself, she was knocked down and spilled porridge all over the floor. "Are you blind?" The cultivator scolded before snorting disdainfully and walking away quickly. Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo helped Ariel Mu up and were about to go settle the accounts, but they were stopped by Blue Autumn Yun. Blue Autumn Yun helped Ariel Mu wipe off the porridge on her face, helped her sit down, and gently tapped her shoulder with her fingers. Spiritual energy spread out like smoke. A wisp of dark spiritual energy suddenly appeared in the faint white haze. Aurelia Luo's expression turned cold. That person is an evil cultivator. Blue Autumn Yun nodded lightly. That evil cultivator is hiding in the inn. After seeing those 2 groups of people, he probably can't hold back and plans to escape. We don't need to bother looking for him. Let's deal with him first. Blue Autumn Yun walked out of the inn and headed in a direction. Using the demon-seeking method, a faint black line appeared in their line of sight. He chased after it all the way until the black line stopped at a dead end on the outskirts of the outer city. The 3 women were just about to be discouraged. Blue Autumn Yun casually pressed against the wall and unleashed her spiritual energy, causing the wall to ripple like the surface of a lake for a few moments. It turned into a different scene. Blue Autumn Yun waved her hand as a sign and then walked over. After passing through, several people had already arrived outside of Muyang City. That black line appeared once again. Elegant Ling had just opened her mouth to ask him how he did it. The next second, he forcefully pressed the 3 women down, hugging them together on the ground. Aurelia Luo is on the left, Elegant Ling is on the right, and Ariel Mu is underneath him. The 3 women had flushed faces, especially Ariel Mu, who was stiff all over. Those being pressed down all looked dumbfounded. Blue Autumn Yun let out a soft sigh. The 3rd daughter quickly looked through the dense grass after hearing the reminder. In the distance, the blurry figure of the evil cultivator has turned into 7 or 8 people. They are currently fighting with several other cultivators. Those cultivators have slender figures and graceful attire, clearly indicating that they are female cultivators. Aurelia Luo took a closer look and was shocked to see that it was none other than our cultivation sect's junior sister. Ariel Mu clenched her little fists, feeling nervous. Those are ruthless demons who wouldn't hesitate to kill. They would never show mercy, and any slight mistake could be disastrous. The 3 women's faces were either serious or fearful. Only Blue Autumn Yun was happily counting with a smile. Her expression was like counting money, making the three women break into a sweat. There are 4 female disciples from Verdant Mist Peak fighting desperately against those evil cultivators. The cultivation level of those evil cultivators exceeds theirs by a lot. Moreover, they are all ruthless fighters with bloody blades, completely overwhelming the female disciples in combat experience. The female disciples are being beaten without any power to fight back. Just then, one of the evil cultivators chuckled and said, "Hey, little sister, you need to put more effort into it. If you don't put in more effort, I'll have to do so later." The female disciples had angry expressions, but were helpless. Their spiritual energy and physical strength were gradually decreasing. The 4 of them leaned against each other, trying to delay for a moment. The evil cultivators walked over with a smile and surrounded them. "Let's finish this quickly. We still have important matters to attend to later. If it weren't for the time constraints, I would love to play a bit more." Suddenly, one of the evil cultivators waved his hand, and a powerful burst of fire exploded towards them. The female cultivators quickly used their spirit techniques to protect themselves. However, the difference in strength couldn't stop the formation from instantly collapsing. The women huddled together in fear, closing their eyes, preparing to face the coming storm. Several figures suddenly appeared in front of them. They never expected to encounter Aurelia Luo here. At this moment, the spiritual energy on her body blew her clothes up as she waved the spirit flute. A layer of slender, azure water light swept out like sword marks, forcing those evil cultivators to retreat and resist. Then she turned around and placed the spirit flute by her mouth, swiftly scanning the evil cultivators with her eyes. At the same time, Ariel Mu and Elegant Ling helped the fallen girls up. They stared solemnly at the encroaching evil cultivators, preparing for a decisive battle. Several evil cultivators shook off their torn clothes. Then, they surveyed the 4 newly appeared individuals. Finally, their gaze rested on Elegant Ling, Aurelia Luo, and Ariel Mu. They laughed heartily. They had initially thought dealing with 2 people using 1 woman would be troublesome. But they didn't expect 3 more people to show up. Their figures look good, and their appearances are excellent. Everyone, quickly make an effort to bring them in, so that we can all be comfortable together. At this moment, Elegant Ling's face is cold, with a faint golden shimmer. She reached back to grasp the second elder spiritual artifact gifted by Blue Autumn Yun. She locked eyes with Aurelia Luo for a moment before rushing out together. Blue Autumn Yun, on the other hand, was staring at someone who was using foul language with a higher cultivation level. She flew over directly. The only one who could make them comfortable was Lazi. Upon hearing this, Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo almost stumbled. They glared fiercely at Blue Autumn Yun, and their speed slowed down. Just then, they were caught up by Blue Autumn Yun, who snatched away the most powerful evil cultivator. They then turned to deal with the weaker ones. Elegant Ling clenched the long sword with one hand, leaning forward. The long sword swiftly swept out more than 10 sword marks. The evil cultivator, who was planning to flirt, was stunned. They clearly did not expect Elegant Ling's attack to be so fierce. They hurriedly defended against several deadly sword marks. Another evil cultivator brandished a giant sword, forcing Aurelia Luo back with powerful and vigorous strikes. Aurelia Luo played the spirit flute, producing a lively and soothing melody, allowing the airflow around her to flow freely. Soon, the melody shifted from lively to cold, filled with a murderous intent. The invisible sword aura surrounded the evil cultivator, launching continuous, relentless attacks that caught the evil cultivator off guard. Ariel Mu and the other 4 fellow disciples almost teamed up against 3 evil cultivators in a 2-against-1 situation. The reduced pressure compared to before also allowed them to hold their ground. Blue Autumn Yun calmly dealt with 2 evil cultivators, while attentively observing the movements on the battlefield. Indeed, as a heavenly spirit body who has just entered the foundation stage, being able to bring a middle foundation stage evil cultivator to a desperate situation is impressive. The blood of Shushu is truly powerful. If the first senior sister activates the spiritual energy within her body, she should be able to barely fight against a core formation stage cultivator. The 2 evil cultivators were both shocked and furious. This kid was fighting and watching others fight at the same time. Even more outrageous is that he was holding a little book in his hand, glancing at it from time to time. This is really looking down on the two of them. This man is fighting himself while watching others fight. From time to time, he casts a glance at the yellow-skinned novels. Doesn't he underestimate evil cultivator too much? The two evil cultivators were shocked and angry. They had thought he was raging in anger for the sake of a beauty. But they did not expect that his strength was not commensurate with his appearance, and he was very difficult to deal with. The two of them tried to be fierce in every way possible, but they were never able to inflict even the slightest bit of harm on him. From the smile of Blue Autumn Yun, the two of them felt a chill. The spiritual energy circulating in their bodies unexpectedly stopped running. Immediately after, Blue Autumn Yun's figure flashed. Her speed was so fast that the two evil cultivators couldn't even catch her. He instantly grabbed the necks of the two people and pressed them to the ground. This swirled like a violent storm and struck wildly until the sound of cracking bones was heard. In repeated frenzied attacks, the bodies of two evil cultivators exploded into a mist of blood. Seeing this, the other evil cultivators rushed towards Blue Autumn Yun together. Blue Autumn Yun dodged lightly to the side. The long sword on the ground swiftly came into Blue Autumn Yun's hand. Several spirals of energy wrapped around the arm and onto the long sword, slashing back in a reverse grip. Several figures interweaved continuously. The sound of colliding spiritual energy constantly rubbed and sparked. Not long after, they all fell down one after another. The female cultivators, who had originally planned to support, looked stunned. Blue Autumn Yun unexpectedly could go back and forth with this evil cultivator in their battle, and even effortlessly defeated them. Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo blinked their eyes, also greatly impressed. Their eyes sparkled like little stars, clapping like fangirls. A group of evil cultivators fell to the ground, their vitality rapidly dissipating from their eyes. After Blue Autumn Yun looted the belongings of the evil cultivators, she used spiritual energy to bury the corpse's aura, ensuring that they would not be detected by others for a period of time. After returning to the inn, the emotions of those female cultivators gradually calmed down. They actually did not intend to participate in the demon execution order this time. They came to Muyang City just to pick some spiritual herbs in exchange for spiritual stones to earn some pocket money. However, they had very bad luck. On their first day here, they encountered evil cultivators. After experiencing all this, the girls had no intention of staying any longer. They took a short break and then decided to return to the cultivation sect. In the inn, Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo are clearing the spoils of war. Their faces are filled with the joy of a fruitful harvest. They both participated in the demon execution order for the first time and achieved victory from the outset, feeling very cheerful in their hearts. On the desktop are 8 jade plaques that serve as proof of the identity of evil cultivators. These are the basis for calculating scores in the demon execution order. Before long, Ariel Mu walked over carrying a black and gold box with a seal on top. Several chains extended from the seal, tightly wrapping around the black and gold box. She was very frustrated, not knowing what was inside. She tried many methods, but couldn't open it. Upon hearing this, Blue Autumn Yun took it from her hand and gently pressed the edges and chain of the box, scanning the shimmering patterns on the seal. With a crisp sound, the seal drifted away and turned into ash. The chain lock also fell from the box. Soon, a cage appeared in sight. Inside was a sleepy-eyed, small, and red spiritual beast with a resemblance to both a fox and a cat. Its ears were long and huge. It trembled all over upon seeing everyone, as if startled, and quickly shrank to the edge of the box. The 3 girls were immediately attracted by the adorable spiritual beast. Blue Autumn Yun also glanced lightly at it. The spirit-eared cat carries a hint of rare sacred beast bloodline. In Blue Vast Domain, it is considered an extremely rare spiritual beast with a cute appearance, often raised as a pet. When raised to a certain level, it can also be used for animal control and possesses impressive combat abilities. In addition, The spirit-eared cat has exceptionally sharp senses and can be used to find various items. Its usefulness on that evil cultivator is self-evident. Presumably, they want to search for something. In the bustling Muyong city, the lights are bright in the evening. Pedestrians come and go in constant streams. Several people staying at the inn felt bored and decided to go out for a stroll together. Soon, a magnificent 11-story building came into view. Several girls' eyes lit up, and they hurriedly walked into the building together. Upon reaching the lingerie section, Blue Autumn Yun immediately covered her nose. There were made costumes, swimsuits, and various other clothing items that exposed the teenage girls' figures. The craftsmanship was extremely conscientious. The most scarce fabrics are used to showcase the most beautiful and enticing figures of the teenagers. Moreover, it is extremely convenient. It is worth the high prices and caters to various tastes. It can highlight the body's contours while also concealing the most mysterious areas. Often, this semi-revealing attire is the most alluring. Just thinking about it can't help but make the blood boil. Blue Autumn Yun chuckled. If the girls were to wear these, just the thought of it would be somewhat exciting. After a moment, Elegant Ling held the selected clothing in her arms. She glanced around quickly and hurriedly ran over while no one was looking. She swiftly took out a semi-transparent bellyband from the hanger, along with a short skirt and stockings. Blushing and running away quickly, Elegant Ling felt extremely embarrassed. She thought to herself that she might need it one day, so she decided to buy it first and worry about it later. After a while, Aurelia Luo also adopted the same posture. When she saw that no one was paying attention around her, she took out a set of secretary outfit and stockings that could reveal her figure. She gritted her teeth and then grabbed the lace leg garter. Then she continued to casually pick out clothes as if nothing had happened. But when they finished picking out a large pile of items, they found that the prices were far beyond their budget. Blue Autumn Yun was shocked by the large bags and packages in the hands of the women, as well as the attendants following behind, pushing full shopping carts. Apart from clothes, there were also some jewelry and spiritual artifacts. Isn't it not just a little bit, but a billion bits? They were almost going to empty out this store. Are they buying clothes, or are they buying the whole store? Blue Autumn Yun hesitated. He didn't mind spending money, but there have been many cultivators and evil cultivators in Muyong City recently. Carrying so many things with him would definitely attract unnecessary trouble when going out. This was really not in line with his low-key personality. At this moment, Elegant Ling stood with her hands behind her back, awkwardly smiling. Then she looked at Blue Autumn Yun and sweetly called out, "Dad." Blue Autumn Yun was shocked and fell into silence. The effect was outstanding. Aurelia Luo approached Blue Autumn Yun and whispered in her ear, "Dad, I want one too." Ariel Mu also nodded silly and said, "Dad, Dad." Blue Autumn Yun couldn't have imagined that Elegant Ling would resort to this trick. Blue Autumn Yun reluctantly walked downstairs to the counter to find a servant to tally the prices. He still had over 20,000 spiritual stones in his storage ring, more than enough to pay for these clothes. However, he will need to stay in Muyong City for a long time. He also wants to help the girls improve their strength. He will buy some more medicinal materials himself. The upcoming expenses are still quite substantial. There may be other expenses as well. By such calculations, the plunder from the evil cultivator's side is also not enough to make up for it. So he used his divine sense to scan the storage ring that Rinheim gave him to find out how much treasure was inside. After seeing the items inside, he found that the storage ring was filled with valuable objects and spiritual stone savings cards. The payment was equivalent to the price of 5th-ranked Dan pills. That Dan pill is worth tens of thousands of spiritual stones. But the funds given by Rinheim far exceeded that. The spiritual stones cards even reached a terrifying denomination of 1 million. It is estimated that the merchant association to which this pavilion belongs could probably acquire 2 or 3 of them. The strongest Blue Emperor is also unable to withstand the power of the Immortal Maiden calling for her father. Fortunately, he obtained a storage ring from Rinheim, which contains a spiritual stones card with a considerable amount. Just as Blue Autumn Yun was about to check out, a young man in a robe descended the stairs from the upper level. His bored eyes wandered around. Everyone was joyfully carrying numerous packages. The young man's face was filled with sleepiness and boredom. Just as he was about to go downstairs to check out, his gaze suddenly stopped at Elegant Ling, Aurelia Luo, and Ariel Mu. After seeing the three girls, one with a plump figure, one slender and graceful, he couldn't help but stare. He comes from a significant power in the blue vast domain, and has a wide range of knowledge and experience. Even the beautiful girls on the Immortal Maiden list have been seen multiple times. But when it comes to their profiles or back views alone, they fall short by quite a bit, lacking the aura and agility of immortals. He pondered for a moment. Song Yin lifted his chin towards the female guards behind him, signaling them to pay the bill. Then he straightened out his clothes. He slowly walked down the steps towards Elegant Ling and the others. The three girls felt very honored to meet Song Yin from the Blue Vast Domain Soaring Fire Sect here. Upon hearing the three words, Soaring Fire Sect, Elegant Ling and the three girls exchanged a glance. Soaring Fire Sect has a great reputation in the Blue Vast Domain and can be considered a major power. They couldn't help but be surprised to encounter such a powerful force from the domain level in Muyang City. They showed no intention of interacting, but the young man faintly exuded a strong sense of threat. Behind him were several attendants whose cultivation level was unclear. To avoid trouble, Aurelia Luo hesitated for a moment. She nodded and said, "Mr. Song, what can I help you with?" Song Yin laughed heartily several times. Seeing the several graceful and charming ladies, he couldn't help but feel delighted. He did not expect that Muyang City still had such celestial beauties. "I wonder under which cultivation sect do you, ladies, hail from, Immortal Maidens? May I know your names?" Aurelia Luo frowned. She felt somewhat annoyed by this person. But this person has quite a prominent background. It's not wise to provoke him. She politely refused Song Yin and, saying something, she pulled Elegant Ling and Ariel Mu to leave quickly. However, Song Yin took a step forward to block their way. He said thoughtfully, "Ladies, it seems that you like the clothes here. I have some means. If you don't mind, I can pay for your purchases." Elegant Ling did not show any gratitude. She said, "Thank you for your kindness, but someone else has already offered to pay for us." Upon hearing this, Song Yin furrowed his eyebrows slightly, feeling displeased in his heart. However, he still maintained a polite smile on his face. "Your friends who are Immortal Maidens must also be beauties. Where can they be recommended?" "Did you call me?" A voice came from behind. Song Yin turned around to see a young man in a blue and white robe. Blue Autumn Yun looked around and probably understood what had happened. "Are you friends with all the Immortal Maidens?" Song Yin looked up and scanned Blue Autumn Yun. He carefully sensed his aura and attire. A few seconds later, he concluded that this guy was just an ordinary small cultivator. He couldn't help but feel contempt in his heart. Blue Autumn Yun chuckled and said, "Friend, you're mistaken. I am their father." Song Yin was momentarily unable to understand this relationship. Blue Autumn Yun smiled lightly and explained carefully. "It means their husbands' nicknames when playing jokes." "Got it?" Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo instantly blushed with embarrassment and didn't know what to do. He actually said such words directly. Song Yin was stunned for a few seconds, feeling inexplicably angry. "With your behavior, are you worthy of being friends with these three Immortal Maidens?" But when he looked at the shy expressions and the deep resentment in the eyes of the other two girls, he couldn't help but think that they had some kind of relationship with him. These girls seemed to be intimate with this guy. They were cold towards him, who came from the blue vast domain, but showed a tender affection towards him. With a shy expression, Song Yin felt a surge of jealousy. In an instant, his mouth was full of a lemony taste. Song Yin still had a smile on his face. But the smile had turned cold and unpleasant. "Wait, it was destiny that I met the Immortal Maidens. You have bought a lot of things in bulk, but they do not match their status. I plan to buy some jewelry from the high-end stores to gift to them. Please wait a little longer. Song Yin sneered with his arms crossed. Judging from the packages of the girls, it seems they do not have the money to buy items from high-end stores. He aimed to display financial power that the kid couldn't match, achieving what young people couldn't easily do. He intended to humiliate the boy in front of these girls by extravagantly spending money. He wanted to show these girls the immense power of the blue vast domain. Elegant Ling and Aurelia Luo are already very repelled by Song Yin at this point, and have also seen through his thoughts. Elegant Ling is starting to lose her patience. No need to bother anymore. If there's nothing else, we'll leave. Song Yin nodded proudly and looked at the ladies with a smile. If the Immortal Maidens are interested, I can take you to kill some evil cultivators tomorrow. It's a pity that your beauty doesn't make it to the Immortal Maidens ranking. Blue Autumn Yun couldn't help but be speechless. Showing off wealth is one thing, but even saying in front of oneself to take girls to cultivate is another. Aurelia Luo thought for a few seconds. She glanced at Blue Autumn Yun and then gave a faint smile. Since the gentleman has such intentions, this lady shall not be disrespectful. Ariel Mu looked at Aurelia Luo in bewilderment, about to pull Aurelia Luo's arm. Aurelia Luo gently patted the back of Ariel Mu's hand. Elegant Ling chuckled thoughtfully. The gentleman is really willing to spend money. Song Yin felt relieved as the two beauties had changed their attitude towards him. This is probably related to his offer to help eliminate the evil cultivator just now. After all, material wealth and reputation are almost everyone's pursuits. The allure of the Immortal Maiden ranking is not trivial for such beauties like them. Ascending to the top floor, Song Yin scanned through many accessories and robes. He was calculating the prices in his mind. He comes from a wealthy background and has a lot of money on him. It's no problem for him to buy half of the top floor. However, he is a bit reluctant as the cost of chasing girls has increased. He is just feeling inexplicably distressed. But watching the girls twist their waists and hips, he felt restless in his heart. Looking at those attractive facial contours, what kind of charm will they display on the bed? With gritted teeth, Song Yin said quite suavely, I'll take all the goods on this floor and the next 2 floors. The shopkeeper of the building came here a moment later. It's the gentleman who wants to buy all the items on these floors. Song Yin didn't even look up, but his tone was full of smugness. I, the shopkeeper, helped to take care of it, and I hope it will be done quickly. Don't keep the Immortal Maidens waiting too long. But the shopkeeper looked embarrassed. This gentleman is really sorry and cannot sell. Song Yin stared coldly at the middle-aged shopkeeper. The uncontrollable release of killing intent emanated from him. He not only did not flatter when buying in bulk. On the contrary, the shopkeeper was so disrespectful. The shopkeeper was extremely panicked, repeatedly bowing and apologizing. Wiping away sweat, he said, Sir, I certainly didn't mean to offend. It's just that this shop has already been purchased by another person. A lowly disciple from the Soaring Fire sect actually wants to steal Blue Emperor's woman. Not only does he flaunt his wealth in front of him, but he even wants to buy things for Blue Emperor's woman. Blue Autumn Yun happened to come strolling by at this moment. The shopkeeper at the pavilion respectfully bowed and greeted. The one who bought this building is indeed this gentleman. Song Yin was suddenly taken aback. The goods in this shop and the pavilion combined cost at least 500,000 spiritual stones. How could this kid possibly afford it? The shopkeeper of the pavilion didn't want to linger in this place filled with the smell of gunpowder. Quickly, he handed a black card to Blue Autumn Yun. Seeing the black card, Song Yin and his group's faces twitched. Only those who have 1,000,000 spiritual stones are eligible to use such a card. Even for the Soaring Fire sect, this is still a considerable fortune. This guy turns out to be a big spendthrift. Song Yin was not convinced. He casually took out a jade plaque from his storage ring and threw it to Blue Autumn Yun, indicating that he had something to do tonight. Otherwise, he would have to teach this kid a lesson. Late at night, moonlight seeped through the window curtains into the room. Blue Autumn Yun held a jade plaque with intricate patterns. It emitted strange and colorful hues. The patterns on the jade plaque were quite complex. On the front side, there was a slumbering demon fox. Although its eyes were closed, it gave a sense of being observed, causing an inexplicable sense of palpitation. The demon fox's narrow 9 tails extended all the way to the back of the jade plaque, forming a circular pattern resembling a twisted vortex. When reflected, it could be seen as an ancient demonic character. Blue Autumn Yun pondered for a moment, then opened the window in the corridor and left. The silk-like venomous haze spread outward from the depths of the mountains outside the city, making the whole city exceptionally dark. Since the appearance of the Spirit Spring phenomenon outside Muyang City, the spirit herbs have been growing rapidly, attracting numerous herb pickers every night, including mutants. They have even built small villages in the wilderness of Muyang City. However, as night falls, a venomous haze suddenly appears in the mountains without warning, slowly spreading outward, making it impossible to continue harvesting herbs for a while. These herb gatherers' eyes have a strange color in their pupils, and their movements have become somewhat sluggish, showing signs of poisoning. Many cultivators, like Blue Autumn Yun, also headed towards the deep mountains. Upon discovering the symptoms of the herb gatherers, they dispersed the looming demonic energy, and then swiftly drove them away to continue on their journey. The intermittent clues have gradually allowed Blue Autumn Yun to piece things together. The sudden changes in Muyang City. Those evil cultivators using the spirit-eared cat are clearly searching for something. However, after obtaining the Demon Emperor Palace jade plaque, Blue Autumn Yun has a rough idea of the possible direction. The item that the evil cultivators are searching for is very likely the sacred object of the Demon Emperor Palace, the Myriad Monster Orb. The Myriad Monster Orb is indeed excellent. However, it is of no use to Blue Autumn Yun. The one who can control the Myriad Monster Orb is the Phantom Fiend body, which is one of the 3 types of physiques he needs. The Demon Emperor Palace has already declined, even disappeared. Naturally, the difficulty of finding the Phantom Fiend body is immense. But now there are relevant clues. Blue Autumn Yun will certainly not let this opportunity slip by. He put on the wig, activated his spiritual energy to change his appearance slightly, then casually glanced around before heading towards another dense forest. When he found a thin area of venomous haze, and was about to investigate, suddenly a graceful and familiar figure appeared beside him. The figure also noticed Blue Autumn Yun, and immediately walked over, with a charming smile. The figure slowly approached from the darkness. A close-fitting robe with scarce fabric. The white legs were very eye-catching in the night. Her face was adorned with a half-mask. You could tell from the upturned corners of her lips that she was smiling. Blue Autumn Yun was surprised. It was a bit unexpected to unexpectedly meet Rinheim here. Rinheim nodded slightly and bowed to Blue Autumn Yun. Why did the adult appear here? Could it be because the night is long and the adult is a bit lonely? Feeling restless and unable to bear it, she came out to seek amusement. If that's the case, Rinheim can accompany you for a while. Blue Autumn Yun ignored it, and continued to inspect venomous haze. Rinheim, however, followed behind Blue Autumn Yun. She gently pulled her clothes to reveal her shoulders. Today I am wearing black fishnet attire on my upper and lower body. Surely it will add a lot of fun, she said, as her fingers restlessly moved towards Blue Autumn Yun's abdomen. Her fingers teased, as if trying to arouse evil desires. Blue Autumn Yun was speechless and quickly dodged. The woman's fingers touched venomous haze, leaving a slightly black dew on her fingertips. It can be seen that this woman had just emerged from the depths of the venomous haze in the mountains. He recalled that this woman had asked him for help in refining the luminous spirit 7-flower Dan pill. It seems she is going to search for the Myriad Monster Orb. Blue Autumn Yun was also not bothering to beat around the bush with her. He straightforwardly asked her if she had found the Myriad Monster Orb. Upon hearing this, Rinheim's smile gradually stiffened. Panic arose in her eyes. This matter is extremely confidential in the cultivation world. Perhaps besides that person in the blue vast domain, no one else knows about it. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, feeling a deep sense of dread towards Blue Autumn Yun. Blue Autumn Yun sighed and walked forward. Just tell her not to go and mess with that thing. Rinheim's curiosity was further aroused. She watched Blue Autumn Yun's back and shook her head slightly. Then she turned to look at the pervasive smoke. Taking out another Dan pills, she was about to enter again. Just as she was about to swallow it, only to see a few strong auras coming from the depths of the smoke, more than a dozen figures swiftly rushing out of the fog. The cultivator in a golden robe at the front immediately cursed loudly upon seeing Rinheim. That demoness hasn't run far from here. Rinheim's figure moved. A lingering afterimage swiftly flew towards the direction of Myong City. A huge sword shadow rushed out rapidly. The sword shadow pierced the ground, setting off a strong explosion of spiritual energy. Clumps of soil and trees flying in the air blocked Rinheim's path. Those figures all went crazy and charged forward together. They ran around Rinheim, surrounding her. Taking out the spiritual artifact, they glared angrily at Rinheim. Rinheim looked at them and sighed slightly. Her white wrist emerged from her sleeve. Between her fingers were several silver needles shimmering with a cold light. Her eyes quickly searched for vulnerabilities. Upon seeing a few cultivators with slightly weaker strength above, she directly flew up towards them. The surrounding cultivators all turned around and encircled her to attack together. Rinheim tilted her body to brush past the long swords wielded by two cultivators. She kept moving backward and then swiftly flipped over. A sword shadow grazed her face. Rinheim smiled lightly and swiftly scattered the silver needles from her hand. Many cultivators immediately used spiritual artifacts to defend themselves. Cultivators with weaker strength used protective chi shields that were unexpectedly pierced like bubbles. The silver needles hit the bodies of those cultivators directly. Then, the ends of those silver needles revealed hidden threads in the darkness. Rinheim lightly pulled on the threads with her fingers, causing the 5 cultivators hit by the silver needles to instantly fall heavily to the ground, unable to move. They then stood up like puppets. Rinheim showed a disdainful and contemptuous smile. She pulled her hands, tightening the threads. Those cultivators turned into manipulated puppets and rushed towards the remaining cultivator together. Sword shadows and various spirit techniques bombarded. Rinheim left behind traces of fox shadows beside her. She dodged many incoming attacks. She then took out a katana as tall as a person from the storage ring and swung it. She lightly licked the blade with her tongue, spraying a drop of blood onto it. The katana immediately flashed a crimson eerie gleam. The scarlet flame spread gently from the blade to both sides, giving off an ominous and mysterious aura. Blue Autumn Yun touched his chin as he watched the battle. Rinheim's style of attack is indeed quite novel. He rarely recalls seeing such a scene in his memory. It seems to be not from this immortal cultivation region. In no time, Rinheim single-handedly resisted 11 cultivators without falling behind. Only to see the leader of the cultivators in a golden robe emitting strong spiritual energy fluctuations. A giant demon ape phantom appeared on his body, and his aura was extremely violent. The other 2 cultivators also started to act. One of them took out more than 10 flying swords from his back. One of them used the technique of controlling beasts to summon more than 10 spiritual beasts. Rinheim continued to jump backward repeatedly. At this moment, 2 white demon wolves rushed towards Rinheim, viciously biting at her. The 2 shadows beside her immediately stepped in to block the attacks. At the same time, Rinheim instinctively swung wildly, colliding with a dozen sword shadows. The clash resulted in a deafening explosion. Rinheim's body slid back along the ground, her knees supporting her. While the sword cultivator's face turned red, he quickly suppressed the disordered spiritual energy. Rinheim narrowed her eyes. Her figure scattered in a dazzling manner. She grasped the katana with both hands and quickly rushed forward as if staking her life on it. The cultivator in a golden robe sneered and also rushed forward with clenched fists. Just as they were about to collide head-on, Rinheim suddenly shifted her body and brushed past the cultivator in the golden robe. She forcefully withstood the pursuit with the katana, and her figure burst into a flash. Then she quickly rushed to the side of Blue Autumn Yun, staggered a few steps before falling down. Rinheim knelt on the ground and gently tugged at Blue Autumn Yun's trousers. She reached out a delicate hand, swaying it in front of Blue Autumn Yun's abdomen, cooing softly. "Adult, I'd beg for a piggyback ride. Later, I'll help you polish your sword, okay? I came here kneeling." The charming fox woman was surrounded by a group of cultivators after stealing the spirit herb. In her desperation, she tightly grabbed onto the Blue Emperor's leg. Blue Autumn Yun never expected that one day, while enjoying a meal, she would end up eating herself. He faced the coquettish woman's flirting and selling cuteness. Blue Autumn Yun was amazed and couldn't help twitching his mouth. He also looked at Rinheim, who was kneeling beside him with great disdain. "Is this what you call your ace move, trying to seek favor?" In an instant, Blue Autumn Yun also became the focus of the whole scene. Rinheim sat on the ground pulling at his clothes. Full of vulnerability, the delicate woman begged her scumbag husband not to abandon her with a sense of déjà vu. He suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Blue Autumn Yun lifted up the clothes. Rinheim held on tightly and wouldn't let go, leaving a trail on the grass. Blue Autumn Yun sighed and held Rinheim's shoulders with both hands. Lifted Rinheim up as easily as pulling up a spring onion. Rinheim was pulled and exposed her snowy white shoulders. The curves wrapped in fishnet clothing were alluring. Rinheim let out a soft gasp in response. Blue Autumn Yun looked speechless. "Gasping my ass, I just pulled you a bit." Rinheim looked very wronged as she looked at Blue Autumn Yun. "But just one tug and I'm gone." This is the first person to drive him crazy since Shushu. Blue Autumn Yun knows she can't win the argument against her, so she simply stops speaking too much. 3 golden core cultivators leaped over to surround the two. The one in the golden robe glanced at Blue Autumn Yun, thinking she could offer some resistance. "Quickly hand over those spirit herbs. I might go easy on you since you are a woman." Rinheim covered her mouth and chuckled. She replied in a very disdainful tone, "Go easy on me? My legs are right here. I don't need your mercy." What a joke. Rinheim leaned against Blue Autumn Yun and said coquettishly, "Sir, could you please help me? I only took a little bit of spirit herb. Just toss over a few Dan pills casually to resolve the crisis. Later, this young lady will definitely repay you well." Blue Autumn Yun looked at her silently. It's really just a bit of spirit herb. A few golden core cultivators can get so excited about it. She even used her family's unique skills. Rinheim stretched out her fingers, counting one by one. Just a few hundred with spirit flower fruits, a dozen eternal youth herbs, 5 lavender gray saplings, and 1 relatively valuable Xianling flower. With only this much, this group of people is desperately chasing after her. How petty. Blue Autumn Yun stared at the complaining Rinheim with wide eyes, and was speechless. These precious spirit herbs probably add up to millions of spiritual stones. With such a quantity, even he would chase after them. He also somewhat understood why this woman was so wealthy. The cultivator in the golden robe's face darkened, and he angrily said, "You also heard what this woman said. How can you still cover up for such a shameless person?" Blue Autumn Yun gently touched his forehead with one hand. With the other hand patting Rinheim's shoulder, he said, "A gentleman loves wealth, but with proper means of acquisition." Rinheim bit her lip, saying, "This spirit herb is crucial for me. If the adult won't help, I'll have to leave." Blue Autumn Yun sighed, and was about to turn around. Rinheim hurriedly grabbed Blue Autumn Yun's hand. "You can't leave without me. After all, we both have flesh and blood connections with you. How can you be so heartless?" The 3 golden core cultivators looked at each other. Do they really have flesh and blood connections? Their relationship does seem quite deep indeed. They had the idea of capturing Blue Autumn Yun together. After all, this kid may also help hide the goods. When Blue Autumn Yun went crazy and spun in place, suddenly, amidst the venomous haze pervading the surroundings, dozens of hideous phantoms emerged from the mist. They looked like ghosts on the road to the underworld, emitting black smoke and staggering out of the venomous haze. Many cultivators turned and looked at each other. Everyone seemed puzzled by the appearance of such strange events. As the blurry fiendish figures in the venomous haze increased, the Golden Core cultivator coldly snorted as he glanced at Renheim, temporarily putting aside the grievances. He waved his hand to signal those Golden Core cultivators to intercept the dozen fiends coming out first before discussing further. At this moment, Blue Autumn Yun walked towards the fiend in the venomous haze. With a slight movement of her finger, Renheim's dagger flew out and landed in her hand. Beside the cultivator in a golden robe was a young man, who was the previously mentioned Song Yen. He had also never seen such a scene before, and felt quite horrified inside. If it weren't for the sake of preserving the reputation of the Soaring Fire sect, he would have retreated long ago. Dozens of fiends emerged from the venomous haze and launched a frenzied attack. Renheim's face immediately paled. She didn't expect Blue Autumn Yun to face those fiends alone. She gritted her teeth and rushed forward quickly. She reached out to grab Blue Autumn Yun's arm, wanting to escape together. But she did not expect Blue Autumn Yun to be as strong as 1,000 pounds. He stood still in place without moving an inch. When Fiend was 100 steps away, Blue Autumn Yun suddenly opened his eyes. Renheim suddenly felt like needles were pricking her back, causing her whole body to tremble. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat, staggering back 2 steps before falling to the ground. The aura of this person was far more terrifying than those fiends. Blue Autumn Yun gently placed the katana in front of him, pushing the back of the blade with his hand, its reflection showing him squinting his eyes. A white light bloomed in the air, spanning dozens of meters. The white light expanded into a terrifyingly large sword shadow, sweeping down to cut down dozens of oncoming fiends. Renheim stood behind Blue Autumn Yun, widening her eyes as she looked at the massive sword shadow slashing down. Within several dozen meters around the sword shadow, the fiends that had not yet come into contact with it dissipated one after another, turning into black smoke. Even the fiend at the Golden Core completion cultivation level could not resist his single slashing attack, shattering and disappearing at a speed too fast for the naked eye to follow. In an instant, all the frenzied fiends charging forward were completely slain. The sword shadow continued forward, accompanied by a series of intense and piercing bursting sounds. In the distance within the line of sight, a rumbling collapse could be heard from the mountaintop. Several seconds later, the sword shadow finally dissipated. Everything within sight was leveled to the ground. All the cultivators present widened their eyes, unable to imagine what is happening before them. A single sword strike kills the Golden Core stage fiend in one move, turning the scene into flat ground within sight. Such power is truly terrifying. Blue Autumn Yun turned around and put the katana into Renheim's hands. She gently pinched her face to help her close her mouth, which was open in surprise.